This is Ansgar from Codable, and I want to give a quick overview over the advanced VR framework. The first feature that I want to dive into are the VR controllers. So looking at the VR controllers, pressing the special right button, we can switch between the VR hands, the 2-laser mode, and the 1-laser mode. The VR hands are completely touch correspondent, so if we press or touch the corresponding buttons, we can make all these kind of different gestures, pointing down, pointing up, pointing at objects. When looking at the laser will always try to smoothen out, and it will change color if we hover over objects that we can actually interact with. Additionally, every controller has a teleport mode, currently assigned to the A button on the Oculus Rift controller. So if we press this button, it will open up the teleporter, and if we hover over a surface that we can actually teleport to, it will turn green. If we hover over a wall or anything that is not somewhat like a surface, it will tell us that we cannot teleport there. And so we can teleport to our first button. This is basically just a simple button. We can press it with every element. It will have this smooth transition, and if we just press it, it will react to us and it will obviously open the door. So let's get up to the next feature. The second feature that I want to go over is the selection menu. The selection menu can be opened on any object that highlights blue when we point over it. So this selection menu only has one item, which is a door icon. So if you press on that, it will open and it will close. If we press on the plus symbol in the middle, it will close the selection menu again. Same works for the lamp, which has a little lamp symbol, which turns the light of the lamp on and off. And the desk, which basically just spawns a little property window, which we can also close by just pressing the button on it. Different objects have different selection menus. So this selection menu has a subcategory which we can use to switch between the two different object types. Same accounts for the lamp as well. The lamp has two different types of objects, and we just switch between them by pressing the different mesh exchanges. So, pardon me. The selection menu can have multiple fields, up to probably 8, as many as you can fit in there. They'll always try to allocate to the buttons, but they can also have like sub-menus where we have sub-elements, and even those sub-elements could have sub-elements until infinity. But of course, we only have limited spatial time, so just be aware that you don't try to spawn too many sub-objects in the selection menu. So this we can change between the different items, or we could just delete it and the selection menu will close with it. Here we have an example with 6 selection menu items, and they will always try to arrange accordingly, and we can have all these different beautiful features with them. But here, for example, we see if we have too many objects, they will try to overlap, and this is obviously not as beautiful. So keep in mind that you don't have that many sub-elements in place. Another way to use the selection menu is to have the gaze view. So see, when looking at it, it opens a little button over here. So some objects can try to tell you that they want to be interacted with, and for example, the light can be turned on, and the TV, which basically should just have one function. We don't want to press on the TV first. We just want the TV to tell us, oh, I want to be turned on, and this can be done here. And yeah, the TV can then be showing the display. So let's go over to the next room where we show the next feature. The third feature that I want to go over is the ability to grab and pick up objects. If we hover over objects, they'll be highlighted green, and if we press the grab button under your middle finger, we can pick up these objects and move them around, and they will be following your laser pointer very smoothly. We can use the thumbstick to get them closer and further away, and we can also use the thumbstick to rotate them left and right. And we can use the grip button again to let go of them. Grabbing has 5 different kinds of release modes. We can have the shadow mode, which basically spawns a shadow and snaps to the ground. This also accounts for the ceiling, so we can snap to the ceiling as well, and we can snap accordingly to the walls. And if the object doesn't have a place to snap to because it's too far in the air, it will just stay in place. We can also use 2 lasers to switch between objects, so we can just take 1, 2, we can just leave it there. And of course we can use the hands as well to pick up objects, but with large objects obviously it will feel kind of strange when we pick up huge tables, things like that. It feels much better for the statues. The second feature of the grabbing is what I internally call the drag. So next to just picking up objects, we also have the ability to move objects around to a limited space. So when we open a drawer, we open them only partially, and they have this kind of fluent motion where you can actually close them down, so it feels like moving the drawer fluently, and it kind of still emulates some kind of motion after that. So we can add these components to our actors and have them move separately whenever we grab them or respectively drag them. This comes very in handy if we want to open doors, so we can move the door open and close. And of course this also works with the laser, so if we interact with that with the laser, it will try to follow the door will try to follow the laser, and we can also make it close. The next feature of the hands specifically is the ability to snap on to certain positions. So on every mesh we can define certain sockets to which the object should snap to, and will perfectly try to fit in that position. And it will also define a hand gesture which it should be using in this position to make it really feel like you have the object in your hand. For bigger objects you can have multiple sockets to be snapping there, so grabbing up here, grabbing down here. But for example, that there are no left-handed sockets on the right side of the picture, so if you try to grab on the right side, it will take the closest socket to you and will snap there. So for bigger objects we want to have more sockets in place, just to have like a surrounded feeling that we always want to be grabbing there, but it also doesn't feel like we grab. We attach the mesh to very strange places to the hand. So this feels very smooth if we try to pick up a vase, which basically fits in our hand, and it kind of looks like, okay, we have this vase in our hand. Same feature accounts for cups as well. So I think this is a very, very beautiful and nice feature. And the hand also has this distant drag mode, so we see it, as soon as it gets highlighted, it will try to pull to that object. We can obviously adjust the distance to that, so we can pull objects over very far distances, but I found this to be a very nice distance. So we don't always have to be overlapping with the object. We can just hover over that, and the object will do the rest for us and snap to the position that we actually wanted to. Okay, let's go over to the next feature. The fourth feature that I want to go over are the pallets. I know I skipped the functional objects for now, but since they are very integrated and very dependent on the pallets, I'll rather explain them in the next step. All the pallets are available on the radial menu when pressing the Y button on the left motion controller. We see that we have 6 different palettes at our disposal. We have the maps, we have the tools, we have the object browser, we have a bookmark browser, then we have a general content browser, and then we have a settings menu. So let's open up the map first. We see that we have a sidebar on the right, we have a close button on the upper right, and we have our map. You can also see the little X button, so we can see ourselves being here, and if we actually move our head, the little icon moves with it. And if we press on the map somewhere, we teleport to the position that we pressed on. We also have viewports in place, so these are different locations placed in here, and we can also define new locations. So if we, for example, press on the plus button, it memorizes the current location that we are in, and if we teleport somewhere, we can always teleport back to that location that we just were. And we also have the Maps tab, where we can switch in different levels, which we will be using quite soon, probably. Then we have the tools, which I will go over in the next feature, so bear with me on that. Then we have an object browser. So the object browser is a neat way to categorize objects. When we, for example, go into furniture, we already recognize some of the furniture that we just had. If we press on that, we can spawn furniture, and we can just place it in the world and make some new, some beautiful environments with that, and just spawn them around. All of the furniture also have the selection menu that I showed just a couple minutes ago, and they all support the same features that I basically just showed. Changing the different materials of the sofa, for example, or changing the meshes, or spawning that little property window, or just deleting them themselves. So we don't infinitely spawn objects, we can also delete them. Every object is categorized, and these categories fit in here. So there are two different stages of categories. If you open that again, we have the top level category, and we have a sub category, which they'll be further categorized in. For example, here we have the shapes, decoration, and electronics. So electronics, for example, being a TV, that we can spawn that little TV that we see in the beginning. It already spawns the gaze menu, and it will we can show that little movie there. So I think this is a very nice way to categorize objects, and to search through them, and to just browse and spawn objects on the fly. The next thing is a bookmark. A bookmark is basically just an object which can also be placed there. The only additional neat feature is that bookmarks are also placed on the map. So here, for example, we see that the bookmark is there. So if we spawn a lot of bookmarks around somewhere, basically place them, we can see that they're updated on the map, and we can leave like little notes for us for later usage. I think that is a very good way to demonstrate the flexibility of maps, and to have like different missions or icons being placed somewhere, and have them being utilized for later usage. So so basically bookmarks are just the same as objects, just that they have special relevance to the maps. And then we have a content browser. So this is basically just a content browser. In this case, it kind of emulates a file browser. So for example, if you want to integrate a file browser, this is how you could be doing that, and you could browse between there. It also shows the beautiful paths, and you can switch it and use it just like a normal file browser, and you could be selecting some elements. But for example, you could be also using it to catalog data. So for example, you have a list of monsters there, and once you click on them, maybe you spawn the monster, or maybe you just show a nice property page for them. So this is a way the palette could be used to organize data, and to be accessing data. And then the last point, we have a little menu where currently we can reset the level, we can quit the application, or go to the lobby itself. So the next feature that I want to go over are functional objects, or tools as I like to call them. Basically, tools are objects with additional functionality. So when I pick up the flashlight, I immediately see that my controller disappears and it be replaced by the flashlight. And when I press trigger, I see that the tool has some functionality, turning on light. So that's basically what a flashlight does. And this obviously accounts for many more objects. So for example, if I pick up a gun, I can uh, I can shoot these balls, and because every VR experience needs a gun, I think it's a very, very nice feature to have. Of course, we can also pick them up with our hands and also turn them on and off. The hands and controllers work almost equivalently in most cases. And in this case, we can pick up the tablet and we can press the trigger button just to have this, just to trigger this animation. So this can be used to implement a lot of interactable objects and to have the objects do a lot of really crazy things. I said that they're very tightly integrated into the Pallets menu. And let's see, if we open the tools, we immediately see 4 tools. And these are packed with a lot of functionality. So I want to go over them one by one. The most simplest one is probably the annotation tool, which just spawns this little remote control in your hand and gives us the ability to measure our environment a bit and to give us a little bit of information about that. Of course, it's very simplified, but if you want to have an application of this with this feature, it gives us a very good way to start. If I throw away an object, the palette will automatically return to its former state. So the next tool, which I find a very, very neat tool, is a camera. So the camera can just take pictures of any location, this door, for example, and if I press on this picture, it'll be displayed here. And we can also make a little Polaroid of that picture and have it be displayed here, and we can throw that away as we don't need it anymore. This is also an object as any other object, and we can use that to delete. We can delete that the same way as we interact with any other object. We can also delete the picture itself, or we could export that to our hard drive. And now it's being saved on my hard drive, and I could open that PNG through Windows or Mac or whatever I'm using at the moment. And the next tool I've also find very neat and very usable in a lot of VR applications, and I must admit it still needs a bit of love with smoothing and getting different paint types. But it's a very rudimentary start to getting drawings in the application. So basically, you can draw little elements in there, and you can change the colors, obviously, of your paintbrush. And I find this very, very necessary in a lot of VR applications, and I hope you have a lot of fun with that. So that's very cool. And the last one is a coloring tool, and this basically looks at different components, and we can change the color of them just as we feel fit. Just a way to play around, but it should give some inspiration of what you could do with different objects and maybe where you want to get started. So for example, if you have a very complex object, a car or any larger object, then you could assign different materials on there, and you could jump in VR and actually color different elements of that. So I find that to have a lot of potential as well. But obviously, the feature here isn't developed to its extreme. Okay, and now that I kind of messed up this place, we can use the pallets to switch to another place via the maps, and there we also go into our, well, kind of not last feature, but the feature to smoothly transition between different levels. So for example, if I pick this level, because it's my apartment level where I have displayed all the functionality possible, and try to arrange that in a neat level where you can try and play out and see what all of this functionality could look like in a real level. We also see here a smooth transition, so it basically loads a transition screen, and in the background it loads the level while we actually wait at that transition screen and not be blocked with a black screen most of the time. This is the apartment level. So the apartment level tries to encapsulate all features that the framework currently supports. It's a very dynamic level with every object in this apartment being completely dynamic. Of course, with so many lights and so many different objects, this takes a very, very huge blow on the performance. So this shows in the video that the frame rate drops. It currently works fine for me in VR, but in the video it seems to be breaking all the time. So just bear with me for this moment. We can pick up every object in here. We can select every object and change them as we want. We can pick up objects like these. We can open all the drawers. We can change the floor materials, and we can show ourselves a window here of some properties of the floor. So there are a lot of different functionalities. Of course, we can also turn on lights, or for example, we could delete this desk. We can also select this TV and play the little movie here, or we could even remove the ceiling and move it somewhere else. And yeah, basically you can play around in here and just see what this level actually has to offer. So let me go back to the lobby. For that, I will open the menu, and we can even use the hand to interact with the menu. So if I just press on this button, it will take us there. So the lobby is the last feature. Here we also see a different type of teleportation. So just by pointing at the floor, we see that a teleportation grid is being displayed, and just pressing the trigger will allow us to teleport there. It's easier in this case that we don't actually have to press a teleport button to get somewhere. We can just see where we can teleport to. And additionally, we have these panels. So these panels can be opened and closed, and these all represent like one level. So this was the level that we currently were in the beginning, showing all the different features, and this was the open world level with the neat apartment, showing what these features could be implemented into. And just by opening the experience and pressing the start experience button will get us there. And it will get us into this neat loading screen, and after the level has been loaded, it will immediately take us there. And now that we are in the beginning again, I want to close off this overview. This package contains a lot of features, and it's very hard for me to show them all in one video, and it probably contains a lot of hidden features that I didn't even think of or didn't even try to tackle. And of course I try to include them in the best I can in the documentation, but it's going to be missing some here and there. But just keep in mind that this package is very modular, and you can of course, just for your project, just always take bits and pieces and just take them as they are and integrate them into your project. I find that to be very easy, just especially in VR, since things like the selection menu or the grabbing are very, very encapsulated features that you basically can just extract and use them in your own project. So obviously, this framework is not intended to be used completely and not every feature to be used, but just to give a head start in features that I find most necessary in most VR applications, and to really get started very fast on building your own VR application, so you don't have to start from scratch every time. And yeah, thank you so much for looking at the overview. And I hope I catch you guys soon. And if you have any questions, just email me or write me. I bet over the Unreal Store there are more than plenty ways to contact me if you really need assistance on the asset pack. And yeah, thank you and goodbye.